One of the most popular variant rules is the free archetype. Now, the free archetype allows you to add a lot of color and a lot of capability to a character without necessarily overpowering them. It is one of my favorite roles, and we're going to try and explain that today. So, my name is Don. I'm trying to be the sly strategist, and let's go ahead and get into it. So, the free archetype rule is an amazing rule. It does allow you to color a lot of the campaign, a lot of the character creation, and a lot of the abilities of the group, and allowing them to interact with each other without necessarily overpowering everything. To do a brief explanation of what the free archetype rule is, it's an optional rule in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. It allows players to take an archetype feat at level 2 along with their class feat at level 2 and every second level after that. So they would get their class feats and archetype feats at 2, 4, 6, 8, and so on. So as opposed to having to give up a class feat in order to take an archetype, the free archetype allows those two things to occur simultaneously. You might think you'd be worried about having overpowered characters by doing that, but just to kind of alleviate that a little bit, I want to give a quick example here. So let's say you have a martial class, and that martial class is going to utilize the free archetype rule and kind of go into a spellcasting class. We'll just say, for ease of use, we'll say wizard. So what I want to say is that at a 4th level, so the martial class took the wizard dedication at 2, they wouldn't get their actual first spell until level 4. They would only have 2 cantrips until then. Whereas a wizard at level 4 would already have 5 cantrips, 3 first level and 3 second level at that same time. So you get a little flavor without the full-on onslaught of a dual class character, which is available in this particular variant rules section, kind of the page before this, if you're following along with that. It is something I really like. It is kind of goes into, I keep saying this a lot, so I'm repeating myself a little bit, and I understand that, but really, it's flavor rather than overpowering. There are a couple cases where I can see this would be super valuable. Let's say if you have a campaign that takes place solely on a pirate ship or on a pirate crew. The pirate free archetype would be a fantastic one to give. If you are doing something that takes place in an academy, then there's a free archetype available for that. If you want to do something sort of like a tournament arc, well, there's a gladiator free archetype. So these can add flavors, and you can give it to the whole group so they can all participate, even if they are a cleric, but you give them that gladiator free archetype so that they can do things. Or if they're in a school, supposedly a wizard school, and you have a barbarian, well, it gives them some flavor so they can participate in that school in a way that makes sense. It's also a way in order to allow a player to develop a character that is more diverse than it would be otherwise. I've said in multiple videos now that the character creation process in Pathfinder 2nd Edition is so deep. It's so very, very deep. Well, this is a way to make it even more deep and to give you more opportunities in order to customize your character. I know that in one of my campaigns, I'm currently playing a cleric, and one of the things I wanted to do is to add some flavor. He's a cleric who follows Desna. So in order to add some flavor to the character, I basically gave him a familiar that he wouldn't normally be able to get. Not for any particular overpowered reason. It's simply because it meets his backstory and gives him more things to roleplay off of and to be part of the group. So these archetypes don't have to be about power. They can just be about expanding the actual fun and roleplay that you have with the character. There are a few drawbacks As a GM, especially if you are employing a free archetype role, that you might want to keep in mind. One of the big ones is that it is hard, especially if you're one of those GMs that tries to bring everybody's backstory into the campaign so that everybody's individual backstory makes sense and is valuable in the campaign. The free archetypes can kind of mix that up a little bit. It can make the characters powerful if you have a min-maxer. It can make them more powerful, but once again, you can handle that. One of the base rules in the free archetype is that they have to take 3 feats before they can move to the next one. You can enforce that, and that'll keep them a little bit toned down. You can make it so that they can take a different archetype at every single even level. So you could have a fighter, wizard, swashbuckler, assassin by the time they're 8th level, which is valid. If you take that little 3 archetype rule out. But there are various things you can do in order to kind of control the level of power that you have with the character and with the player. And it's something that you can discuss at your table and make sure that everybody's aware of what its intent is. It makes it a little bit, could be challenging to balance encounters. Players will always have more options available to them, and they could create a scenario where your fighter wizard and your cleric gladiator were able to pull something off that you just had no idea that was going to happen, and took the encounter that was going to take 2 sessions to go through, and they took care of it in 5 minutes. You know what? That happens. And part of that is ad-libbing, and part of that is improvisation. And you roll with it and you move on with the story. So it adds a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. It is a great way to add more flavor. It's a great way to add more diversity of actions into Pathfinder 2nd Edition so that they have more things to do than move, strike, strike, or 3 strikes, or have a cleric who is just a heal bot or a blaster caster. You can give them more options of things to do to create a more well-rounded play style and a more well-rounded campaign. It is important to be aware of some of the potential drawbacks that we discussed, but they don't seem that heavy to me. So we'll go ahead and leave the explanation at that. I would like to thank you for making it to the end of the video and sticking with it. I hope you learned something, and I hope you were able to get something out of it. I hope you have a great day and happy adventuring. Thanks.